Where'd you go? I miss you so. Feels like forever since you've been gone. Where'd you go? I miss you so. Feels like forever since you've been gone. Rationale. I like how I normally change the lyrics of songs, and that time I just didn't. Cut my fucking hand for you guys with this butterfly knife, if you were wondering what that sound was. Little butterfly knife I bought in Puerto Rico. Is it legal in the States? That I don't know, but they were legal in Puerto Rico, and I'm ready to cut someone on a fucking Wednesday. Hump day. Shit's wild, you know? I just got knives everywhere in here right now. I don't know what the fuck. I got a machete over there. Bow and arrow on the floor. Get it on the floor. Get it on the floor. Random screwdriver. Monos on a perch. Obviously, there's more shit going on in here that I can't talk about yet. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wednesday. What the fuck Wednesdays is the new thing. It's not really. I refuse to have corny, catchy things. You know what I hate? When people give themselves a hashtag. Like you'll see some celebrity who's like having some shitty agent or manager talk in their ear about coming up with a gimmick, and they start something like, "Hey y'all, Monday motivation with Michael," and then it's just like some celebrity being like, "Today I want to talk about how to help you improve your life," and then it's always some super cheesy thing that they just read off one of those motivational quote calendars. They're like, "Stay positive, because at the end of the day, you got to be positive." It just doesn't really make sense, but they just do it. It just is like, yeah, that's got to be the worst advice you can give someone when they're actually going through shit. Be like, look, you got to stay positive, you know? People don't want to hear that shit. I have to check myself when I'm giving people advice to not apply what is applicable to my mindset to theirs, because I'll say some shit that I'm like, this isn't going to help them because they don't think like me, which is probably a good thing most of the time. It's a weird fucking time right now, and it feels like maybe it's just been snowballing. I keep saying I'm going to delete Twitter, and I'm gonna, because it's just not good for my psyche, especially at night. I do the thing where I wake up in the mornings. I don't look at my phone for probably about an hour and a half. I journal, I read. I don't journal and read for an hour and a half. It probably takes me an hour. And then I look at emails. I do all these things that are on my checklist for my mornings. And then I'll look at my phone. And it's like a nice ease into the day. I just keep it in a separate room when I sleep, so I'm not tempted when I wake up to just grab my phone and start the day like that. But I'm thinking about doing that at night, where at like 8 p.m. I just stop looking at my phone anymore, because it's just like there's nothing there for me, you know? And you just, it takes you out of the present, whether you're watching the hit series Alone, the survival show. I've been so addicted to it, I've gone now and downloaded the History app, and I'm watching the seasons. I fucking love it. It's the greatest thing. When people kill squirrels and get rabbits and they snare them and they catch fish with gill nets and shit, it just makes my willy tingle. Dusting off classic bars. Just so good. I just realized I have gum in my mouth. So disrespectful, ladies and gentlemen. So disrespectful. I'm so sorry to do that to you guys. I run a video production company. I know how disgusting it is when people have gum in their mouth when they're on a microphone. I have to tell clients. Sometimes I have to treat them like little fucking kids and be like, spitty outy. Ridiculous. I don't even know what the fuck we were talking about. Oh, yeah, it makes my willy tingle. But it's a weird time in the world, and that's what I was getting at with why I'm starting to disconnect at night, even from going on social media and everything. There's just so much toxic shit, and I really do think it's so important for people to research topics before they post about it. And also, more importantly than that, like these causes that people get behind, sometimes you got to think about how you're coming off, which is why I don't really post too much about humanitarian issues and what I'm doing in the world and like what other people should be woke about. Because you have to make, like before, like I see a lot of people with the human trafficking and the kids trafficking and all this stuff going on right now. You don't know people's lives, and people are like, if you're not posting about this, then you're a piece of shit. And I'm just like, man, this is not the way to go about it. You know, I hate that guilting into action shit. And a lot of times, like you see these things of Epstein's flight logs starting to come out, and there's so many butchered flight logs where if you know, people will blatantly put it up. I saw people in their stories, they'll be like, look at the flight logs. I found these on Google. Oh, you found them on Google. And then you have to look at the flight logs of who was on there. And you have to fact check it. And you're like, oh yeah, they weren't actually in there. But it's like celebrities, and I don't even know if it's canceled. Canceled isn't a big enough word for what happens to some people. Because I think there's a difference. Like we have to come up for another word besides canceled. Because when someone's canceled, I think for a lot of ways it means like people get canceled for different reasons, and some of them are warranted, and some of them they got canceled over something that was completely false. And it's like, man, no matter what, you're guilty before being proven innocent at all. In a lot of situations. And for some people to have their entire life ruined, and I see some of these stories where I'm like, oh, now they're getting death threats for their kids and everything because someone photoshopped a flight log from Epstein Island, and now they're like going into hiding. And it's like you see some weird shit with Tom Hanks where people are saying Tom Hanks is, that Greece has pedophilia laws, protections, and like this weird ass shit. And I'm just like, what? There is no laws like that. So everybody's sharing that from Greece. It's like, it's so weird to me. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And you're not doing anything good for society when you post this shit. I really do think there should be repercussions for posting fake shit online. Like I really think that's the next thing we have to do. There has to be something done, because it's not just, people lie on the internet all the time. It's not, because people die. People get killed in retaliation. And it's scary to see how much the media can twist things and literally create a narrative that is whatever they want. And it's not just, everybody knows the media lies. But it's dangerous because this was kind of something that was crazy. And this just came out yesterday. I wasn't even planning on talking about this. # unplanned bars. But George Floyd, dusting off classic, # controversial. There was footage released, or leaked footage, of the body cam from that arrest. And if you watch the footage, which I highly recommend everybody goes and watches, whether, what happened once George Floyd was on the ground, which was terrible. The fact that he lost his life, terrible. I've spoken to cops about this. I haven't met a single person on this fucking planet that doesn't think that was terrible. What happened once he was on the ground. That was terrible. But something very important that the media left out was what was going on before that. They get the footage. It's funny how all of a sudden you see this, he's in the car, then all of a sudden he's on the ground. And you're like, okay, there was a huge chunk of information that was taken out of this. And this is why I never react to certain things is because I'm like, there has to be more. And if everybody's reacting this way and there's something missing from the middle of this, there has to be something. I need to see more evidence. I can't have a picture painted for me and just believe a narrative. And this is why it's so important. People try to attack you for being like, I need to see evidence. I need to see more. I need to know more about it, more data. And if you watch the body cam footage, you see that he resisted so many times in violent ways, was getting irate, screaming, obviously seemed belligerent, and they kept giving him opportunities. They would back off and be like, please, relax, it's okay, we're just trying to help, we need to get you out of the car. And he was obviously high on something, which... Rule number one, you have to protect the people around. You have to protect your fellow officers. You have to protect, like, I'm not defending this particular case because people are so fucking heated online. Hashtag canceled. But that's the mindset of being a police officer, which is a fucking very hard job. That's the thing, is most people who talk shit about cops wouldn't even dare to do that hard of a job. Okay, it's very easy to be a armchair quarterback about ideology and what you would do in a perfect world when you know none of the real variables in that situation. And then as the video goes on, you see him still resisting. He gets out. And the thing in that it upsets me the most is I believe police brutality is real. I think there are situations where there are cops that overstep, and it's not good. Obviously, we need to fix certain issues. But in this particular case, most of the body cam footage that you're watching, it's a black officer that's dealing with him and that he's fighting with and everything. It's not this racial-fueled hate violence that the media portrayed it as everybody on social media portrayed it as. And then you're seeing them fight with him, and they're trying to get him in the car, and he's still screaming and being crazy, and, you know, all this stuff about, you know, I forgot what he was saying about, he was claustrophobic, and he was like, I'm not like that. I'm not one of those people, like, blah, 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 blah. And trying to say that he was like not one of the people that resist arrest, but while he's resisting and fighting with them. And I mean, he's already been arrested. I think it was 7 times or 9 times. Don't quote me on that, but it was over 5. And, you see them finally get him in the car, and they weren't trying to put him on the ground. And then once he's in the car, he starts kicking and screaming at the officers, and he tries kicking his way through the other door. And then that's when they put him on the ground. And from there, obviously it was handled very bad, but you don't see any of that. That's why it's so dangerous, and you need time. You know, people with the whole silence is violence, and you need to act now. You're being triggered by the media a lot, and it's very dangerous. Like, this is my unsolicited 2 cents. You're listening to my podcast. Obviously, you're 7 minutes deep inside heaven. You have to think whenever everybody's reacting to something emotionally. I do it with myself. When my first reaction is emotional and I want to lash out and I feel like I'm being impulsive, I have to stop. And I have to take myself out of the situation and try to figure out what the best way to handle this is. Well, okay, what is reality? What is making me feel like this? And then I try to see, is it actually what happened? Or is it what somebody is saying happened? Or is it my own perception of what happened? And then I also think, am I being biased to my way of life, of the way I think the world should be, or the way I think the world actually is, but might not be reality? And those are hard conversations. A lot of times it's a scary conversation with yourself because you start thinking, shit, you have to acknowledge that the world might not be what you think it is. And it's scary because it pokes holes in a lot of your philosophy and ideologies. And I think that's something that happens. And I think that's what's been created with a lot of these safe spaces, the super radical like left mindset in academia. Yeah, I dropped that word on you guys, bars. You start seeing these safe spaces and these very, very radical ways of thinking about how the world should be and how, safe spaces. That's what I'm getting at. And it creates a very, that's the thing, is that it like drives anxiety and depression and everything, and it heightens everybody. And it's a weird thing. And that's where you start getting into this cancel culture of everything is a microaggression. Everything is offensive. Everything upsets you. And that's why I think it's so important for, we have to live in a world of conflict by nature. And that's the thing, is like, nature isn't some peaceful thing. Like, nature is a very dark world. If you look at nature as metal, it's not like the animal kingdom is nice. Everything comes from conflict. And when people want to like erase our entire history and we're canceling people for things in the past, I feel like everybody makes mistakes. Shit. Mono just lost his goddamn tinfoil hat. Everybody makes mistakes. Dude, straight up, there's so many mistakes that I've made throughout my life and that I have to deal with, and I have to cringe and think about, and I have to make sure that I never make those mistakes again. It's a tough situation because people need to be held accountable for their actions. But this over cancellation thing that is happening right now, I saw with Ellen DeGeneres and getting canceled, and obviously I talked about it in the past about Ellen DeGeneres, that she seems like a bad boss. They're talking about taking her show away from her now. Like, that's how bad it's got. And I don't know if that's the right thing. It's like this, what is she guilty of? She's guilty of being a shitty boss. That's the only thing. And it's like, people want to hold a single person at a helm. She's worth like over 300 million. I Googled it. Okay. You can fact check me on that. But she's basically, what I'm saying is, she doesn't have to work anymore. She's worth a lot of money, and she's part of one of the biggest shows in Hollywood. And the thing is, when you have that many people working for you, it's hard to keep every single person accountable and to have that run exactly where you're able to oversee everything. A corporation. Do you know how much shit goes on in corporations? Why do you think there's HR and all these different things in social and corporate structures? Because one person can't micromanage how every single interaction goes between an office, but they can set a tone. And maybe what she's guilty of is being a dick. That's very possible. But you haven't heard one thing about her being racist. You haven't heard one thing about her being, discriminating and belittling people. I don't know, sexual harassment. I haven't seen anything like that. You basically see her being guilty of being a dick. And it's like, these situations, I think the free market should control this. I think you have to allow the free market to work. I love the free market without monopolation, the monopoly that some corporations have on business. When you start hearing about these creepy things about what Amazon and Walmart and all these things do, the run out mom and pops. But I think in the end, people shouldn't work where they're mistreated. Okay, you should know your worth and not get yourself in every situation. And it's like, you're creating a world where people aren't looking to find their own self-worth. You're making them entitled to self-worth when you create environments of safe space and working environments where you have to cater to an individual. And that's the thing about being disrespected and feeling like your boss is being mean to you. That's a perception for the most part. You just hear about very vague things from this particular situation with, it was a toxic environment. It was blah, blah, blah. But there's very few objective situations where you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely it. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I'm in a weird place because of all this shit. And I think I'm getting to the point where I'm just going to stop talking about cancel culture, until I need more topics. But it's just, everything seems to be up in the air with so much right now. It feels like there's a giant, it feels like society broke down and it's now in a jello state. Like it broke down and it's now in a fluid state where we don't know where it's going to land. Like so much is in conflict And I don't know what side we're going to come out of. I would like it to come out of a more adjusted, rational place where we are more objective, and maybe that's what it will come down to. Sorry, I'm just dropping shit right now. But it almost seems like with Hollywood and with entertainment and with so much online, I think this is going to push a lot of people away from these online situations. That was a weird way to say it. But it's weird. And the whole cancel thing is just getting worse. I thought it was going to get better during the pandemic because I'd be like, oh yeah, every great, whenever you have a problem or something tragic happens and, not to be super dark, but when a family member passes away, it puts everything back in sight. You start realizing that, oh yeah, this wasn't what mattered. It's family. It's this. It's how you treat people. And why am I holding on to this dumb little thing? I need to focus on the big picture. I thought that's what was going to happen with the pandemic. I thought people were going to band together. I thought we were going to realize that, hey, we have a real issue right now as a country, and we need to deal with it. But sadly, that's not what's happening. People were basically just given more time to try to research the past and cancel people. That's sadly what's happening. And it makes me sad. I lose respect for people when they cower to cancel culture. I saw a thing where Ryan Reynolds and his wife, I forgot her name, Paige, I don't know what the fuck her name is. I know her last name is probably Reynolds now. But they were apologizing for the fact that their 2000 wedding, the wedding venue that they chose, historically used to be a plantation. Ryan Reynolds has to keep issuing an apology for this and for his ignorance and blah, blah, blah. What? The land that it used to be on. And they were saying, it's not like they knew that. They were like, this is a historical plantation where blah, blah, blah. And here's pictures of the slaves that used to be on it working in the field, blah, blah. No. It was a wedding venue on Pinterest that they picked. And it used to be that way back. I would assume that historically they would try to hide that because it's obviously not a good look. Sioux Plantation got out the game right on time. Okay, they're like, you know what? We can kind of feel the vibe in the room, and we're out of here. Good luck, Olive Garden. Okay, but he was apologizing for it. Their wedding was in 2012. It's 2020, and I don't. It's so weird, that the way that people cower and they apologize for this, like. It wasn't a racist act. I think we have to go back to looking at people's intent, because what's going to happen, and it's already starting to happen with Hollywood and all these celebrities who aren't these people who are, against what this cancel culture is for. Ryan Reynolds came out with a thing about trying to have being super progressive and inclusive of, every color and everything like that. In movies and all this stuff. Like, he was really trying to push this, and they're attacking him. And it's like, what people don't realize is we're going to create this world where everybody's walking on eggshells, where we can't say a single thing, or we're going to be scared shitless because of our past, because of dumb things that we've done. And it's like the idea of cancel culture. Sorry, my eyeball is very itchy right now. The idea of cancel culture is it doesn't allow for change culture. Bars. Patent that. Copyright. Like, instead of cancel culture, we need change culture. Because it's like we need to allow people the opportunity to change. And if they did something wrong, if they fucked up, obviously, there's certain situations where you're like, you're gone. What was his name? Weinstein? He's gone. Yeah, these situations where you hear about terrible people, they're done. Canceled. Reserve it for that. But when you're trying to cancel Ryan Reynolds and make him apologize for what venue he picked, and here's the other thing, like where does this line end where we start looking at certain things from the past? Like, that's the thing, is it was a different venue. It's not like it was a plantation. It wasn't a real situation. It just makes no sense because the Constitution was written when there were slaves in this country. So is it like disrespectful for someone to follow the Constitution because it was written at a time that there were slaves? Or is it disrespectful for someone to have a $5 bill or a dollar bill or $100 bill, or, when there was that culture going on? And it's like, we're gonna get to a very weird place, and I don't think we're there yet. We're teetering on it online, but the thing is that like that academia cancel culture has bled over to Twitter, which is starting to bleed over to the real world, and that's where it starts getting dangerous. And I feel like we just have so many problems. It's like literally the tale as old as time that if you're focused on the past, you're not in the present. We have so much real shit going on in the present right now that we're going to ruin it and we're going to fuck up the future. If there is going to be a future, we're going to all be speaking Chinese because China's going to invade. You just watch. And it's going to be fucked up. Speaking of Chinese, perfect transition. This was honestly the weirdest one that got me fired up this morning. There was a girl from Dance Moms, Maddie Ziegler, I believe her name was. I believe she's 17 now. She was getting canceled and called out because when she was 9 years old, she was doing Asian impressions, not saying like racist things as an Asian person. Was she leaning in the stereotypes? Yes, she was. But she basically was doing that thing where you hold your eyes and you imitate an Asian person. I'm sorry. What kid during the 90s didn't do that? Oh, I'm sorry. When I was like 5-6 years old, I used to go, I Chinese, I play joke, I put pee-pee in your Coke bars. Who didn't do that? And to be honest, I don't know if, like, she was getting canceled on this and had to apologize and issue this thing, and there's all these like cancel videos and everything, and she was just like, I'm so sorry for being insensitive and blah blah blah. We can't try to hold 7-year-olds accountable for what they do. We can't. Okay, if they're saying some very racist stuff, and obviously, if there's blatant racist little 7-year-olds running around, they learned that at home, okay? And they should be given a pass to learn from that as they get older. It's just, people take it too far. Yeah, I don't want to dig too far into this. I think there's, listen, I think there's so much that's just, it's weird. And I think if we get so weird to where we can't talk about other people's culture or make jokes, listen, I've said this before, I love a good Puerto Rican joke. I love a good white person joke. I'm half white, half Puerto Rican. I like both jokes. Okay, someone said something, a funny white stereotype, it's going to make me laugh. People say a funny Puerto Rican stereotype, don't give a Puerto Rican a knife because he'll stab you with it. I'm going to laugh. There's certain things about my culture of Puerto Rico that I know that's true. Violence, angry women. Okay, that's something that's very true. When people talk about it, I think it's funny. And obviously, if we need to be able to joke about certain things. Where is the line drawn? We're just gonna. It's not in our nature to not act this way. And here's the thing that's gonna happen: is there's gonna be people are gonna snap in bad ways. And I just think we gotta go in a different direction. Speaking of different direction, we need to switch topics. This shit's just been too dark. This used to be a comedy podcast. We're gonna have to switch this shit to, like, I don't know, dark days with Evan Lopez. What else is going on that's good? The schools are reopening. That's good, right? Just kidding. Plot twist. Another dark turn. There was a school in Georgia where a kid, they opened up, and on the first day, a kid tested positive for coronavirus. So now that whole class has the quarantine. It's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be a huge thing that happens where, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be a big change in the way coronavirus has been in the country, is with schools opening and kids going back to school. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing. God, we need to get out of this dark days. Listen, next episode, I promise you, we're going to keep it light, baby. We're just going to talk about funny things. We're going to switch gears because I'm just too dark today. I'm sorry, but this is just the world. This is the world we live in. Mono lost his hat, and that's just where we're at, you know. One thing that I am excited about, Mulan is being released September 4th on Disney+. I got that account. How do I got it? Because a friend gave me a login. Bars. Puerto Rican bars. This is going to be interesting because movies are going to start having to release in home, and it's going to change the way we take entertainment. This is the thing for me, though, and I'm a sucker for what is it? I really enjoy building moments. I enjoy the process, and I'm ceremonial. Okay. I enjoy going to the movie theater. I love the drive to the movie theater. I don't know why. When I lived in the Antelope Valley and my girl and I would go to the movies, I love just driving to the movie theater. I loved when, that movie theater on 22 off of I, when you just hit like the desert area where it's like open fields and you can just see the movie theater in the distance. I fucking loved it. I was just like, we're home, Chewy, And then I love the process of you walk up to the window and then you're talking to the girl and you're like, 2 for Batman here. I don't know why I'm in the 1800s, but a little small talk. I always like to try to make them laugh. Sneak in some drinks. My girl's purse just stuffed with little knickknacks, little treats, little chocolate covered raisins. And I'd be the person in there with like a Zevia or a LaCroix, and I'd be like, in the theater, and I'd be like, oh, that's crazy, they're selling cans now. Or I try to cough to cover it as I open it. Yeah, I used to love sneaking stuff in there. The worst is when you smoke the devil's lettuce before you go into the movie theater. Oh, sometimes you get too paranoid. I remember one night going to see Jurassic Park when they re-released it. Smoked the devil's lettuce in the car, and such a good time. Such a good time when you go places like that and you're just walking through, you're just in a different world. But other times, not so good. I once snuck Chipotle and Cold Stones. Why I had that combo, I don't know, into the movie theater. And I was way too high for it. I was seeing The Great Gatsby. I ate an entire Chipotle burrito way too fast because I was paranoid that people were going to turn me in. They'd be like, hey, that's a burrito. They don't sell burritos here. Back in the 1800s. And I started eating my Cold Stone. I got like a large, and I started eating it very fast because it was melting. And I didn't want people to see me eating ice cream. They'd be like, they don't sell Cold Stone here. Or maybe they did. No, snuck it in. And because I ate it so fast, I ate an entire burrito and the whole ice cream within like the first 15 minutes of the movie. And I had way too much food in my stomach. And have you ever gotten indigestion when you're high? Here's the thing. You feel like you're having a heart attack. Okay? You ever had that feeling where you can't breathe when you're high, but it's really just like a indigestion burp or something? Dude, the worst. Because if you try to burp and you can't, you get more pressure in your chest. And then you're like, I can't breathe. This is it. I'm going to be the first person to die from marijuana. And that happened. And I remember I started having a crazy panic attack while I was high because I had way too much food in my system. And I leave my girl. I'm like, hey, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, but I played it cool. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, drain the dragon. And I go to the bathroom, and I'm standing there, and I go into the stall, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm gonna die right here, sitting on the toilet. And what felt like a couple minutes turned out to be like 15 to 20 minutes. I was gone. And I finally calmed down. Everything was good. I realized I wasn't dying. When I'm in my, like, if I've ever had anxiety when I got high before, the way I would tell myself I wasn't going to die is I would do like push-ups or workout and be like, dude, if you were dying right now, you couldn't do fucking push-ups. That's like my meathead mentality. It's like, dude, no one who's actually having a heart attack is going to bust some push-ups out. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to be able to run? I'll go for a little jog and I'm like, I'm good, baby. I'm good. Yeah, people, yeah, you don't just be chill when you're dying. No one's just sitting there and then just die. But I remember I went back into the theater, and my girl, she thought I got arrested. She was like, oh, wow, I'm going to have to walk home because Evan got arrested. Cops found him out in the hallway, and now he's gone. He's in the paddy wagon on his way to prison. And but here's the best part. When you settle out of those crazy high panic attacks, you're good. You have the greatest night ever. Like, you can get out of it and you're like, life is good. It makes you appreciate it. And I remember watching The Great Gatsby, and it gave me a gem that I have taken with every music video I ever filmed. Any video I ever film after that, the amount of what goes into production value, what goes into building sets and building wardrobes and movie magic, because I realize that something like The Great Gatsby is a capture of a moment in time. There's something that's encapsulated in that film, and it's amazing. And it taught me that. It taught me that you should always push wardrobe, you should always push the set, and you should always give more with your budget than give less when you're doing something, because that project is going to be an encapsulation and cemented in time forever. And that's why you should never skimp on production value. Bars. That was a gem. For the people who made it through this episode of all that weird cancellation ranting in the beginning, gems. Bars. And in the future, I'll be able to reward you with that, because I have some announcements I'm going to make. I wasn't planning on making these announcements, but fuck it. You made it this far. You made it through this super toxic beginning of this episode. We're going to be dropping some merch pretty soon, guys. Some more podcast theme merch. Stuff that's not, I'm not just going to put my fucking face on it. It's going to be stuff that I think we all enjoy joking about. Stuff that will be good for everybody. Because I don't know if you knew this. Most of my income, most of my job that I do besides video production is making merch. I do graphic design and I sell a lot of merch. Some would say one of the top merch sellers in the world. Not really. But I moved some units, and I'm like, why don't I do these that are more fun, things that I'm passionate about, and it'd be fun for everybody, I think. And then in the future, once I start unveiling those, I'm going to start doing giveaways. Why the fuck not? Stickers, coffee cups, whatever the fuck we want, baby. All right? But, yeah. I think that's it. I want you guys to have a good fucking weekend. I'm thinking about starting to release a smaller Friday episode where I drop some knowledge on y'all. And yeah, just know, no matter what, ladies and gentlemen, I love you. Some of you. Some people can go fuck themselves.